Okay. Sorry guys, important phone call. I think it's one of those days where I speak for 6 hours straight. You know, when it comes to inner realm vision management, pretty much I'm a human being commenting. I'm a human being commenting on I'm commenting on what to do with the content of your mind. And so I don't know, there's 8 billion of us, we have each different DNAs. I'm not trying to say this is the only way, but I'm going to share with the viewers my experience. The nature of the mind is that it's a force, and it's a force, and just like how there's a comparison, for example, scientifically, let's say, for example, in physics, we have a difference between velocity and speed, and the difference being that velocity has a direction. When it comes to human intelligence, your biological existence provides you a force, and so your mind and your free will provides you with the direction of this force. Now, the important thing about life is that one of the coolest things about life is that you don't have to imagine it, is that there's existence automatically. So existence is like free imagination. So that's very important to remember. Why? Because it all comes down to the effort of the attention. So excuse the coughs, guys. These are I guess my imperfections, you know. What I'm trying to tell the viewers is that when it comes to the nature of mind, there is an awareness. Okay, we're starting off as an awareness. It's as if the person's like, why was there 4.5 billion years of an evolution of an animal body? And the person's like, oh yeah, for me to be me, a me that has never existed before. So at some point the person will close their eyes and wonder about who is it that is present. And the mystery of this presence goes to our own ability. This is something that, you know, if you're shy and young, you're not told, but you know, it's something you learn later, that one has to train, like life is a way of training an individual to rely on their own soul. Okay? Ralph Waldo Emerson, this man who started American Transcendentalism, and evidently who would read the Bhagavad Gita every morning, he would say that pretty much he saw a sort of Christian transcendentalism, and he was like, God gave you a soul, and the soul is your connection to God. So the soul being a connection to God, it's as if our own intelligence is a way to access divine intelligence. So think of it this way. If we understand something external, right, we can say that's like, you know, earthly. That's like let's say, if I see something happening in front of my eyes and I understand it, but if I close my eyes and understand something about who it is that is happening to even understand other happenings. You see, it's the nature of your mind and how much you value the content. I'll give you an example. Imagine there was this this long 200-meter treadmill, and on this treadmill there were people of different appearances, different shapes, styles, attractiveness, unattractiveness, all of this treadmill of different people, right? And imagine a person was left to kind of judge, and they were in like this room where they could only see one at a time, each person that would come by, right? So similarly, when it comes to meditation, one is doing the same thing, right? In meditation, the idea is your body is put, like, just like how you put a, like right now there's a coffee cup in my hand, just like I put the coffee cup down on the table and I trust it being there. In meditation, you just need to keep your body still. You just need to, just like you put a coffee cup on a table, you need to put your body on the earth, right? So in meditation, and the one recommendation is keep your spine straight. So if you're street smart, you keep your spine straight somehow and still sit comfortably. Or if you're not street smart, you know, you try to robotically succeed. I don't know. So what I'm trying to tell the viewers is that in meditation, the idea is that unlike how we're conditioned to know, we're actually a multidimensional being, and there's a objective existential event and there's a subjective experiential event, and both of these are simultaneously happening. Just like we have two eyes that see one moment, similarly two different dimensions are being one state of being. Okay, so in meditation, the idea is to slow down the speed of the existential event so you can notice the speed of the experiential event. So it's another way of saying we slow down the body to notice how fast the mind is moving. This is meditation. So you sit still and silent wherever you are. Let's say you're a businessman in a suit in a boardroom and you just hear this Mr. Within talk. Wherever you are, you know, give yourself enough freedom to just sit down on the ground, still and silent, and just sit down on the ground cross-legged, just normally, and for a moment just be still and watch your mind as if it's a free cinema, as if you didn't have to pay for a ticket to get to see how your mind moves. And that's the point of meditation. If you're smart, meditation is a way of you realizing what you are given. Just like the X-Men, right? Just like the movie X-Men, each mutant had an ability. We're not like X-Men, but on a micro level, we're so different that if the micro abilities were amplified, we would be like X-Men. You know? So that's what I'm saying. What meditation is not just an activity locked down by a sort of cultural period, right? What it is a technique to get to see what your mind is while you're alive. What is the nature of your mind? What is the nature of its intelligence? And something I'll tell the viewers is that you're going to realize the nature of the human experience is rhythmic. So this is why life feels like a simulation, because the existential event is constant in a singular dimension, but the experiential dimension is oscillating between conscious and unconscious. You know what that means? That means our mind, that means we exist from the beginning of our birth to our death all the time, but our mind gets to experience its existence periodically. So this is something important to know about consciousness. Why does it feel artificial? Because it is cycling. It's cycling. Like consciousness is like a freaking dolphin jumping in and out of water. Right? So it's as if this free will is like, yeah, I control my life. I control my destiny. I'm a hero of my own story. And then, oh man, I gotta sleep. And then when the person sleeps, deep sleep, no sense of self. No hero to save the day. No salvation. No heaven or hell. Nothing. So what does this mean? This means there's a non-linguistic existential event that we are being, that is occurring, which no amount of language can clarify. It's like, just like some people say, what does the color blue mean? It's like, it's a universal in philosophy. It doesn't mean anything. It is what it is, right? So similarly, when it comes to existence is what it is. So the whole issue with materialists trying to ground their psychologies or explain their psychologies to themselves is pretty much, how can existence and experience be together? That's the whole issue. The whole which came first, chicken or the egg, mind or body, Purusha or Prakriti, consciousness or matter. So the most important thing about your inner realms is, I'm going to try to talk about it right now in a way where I think nobody ever has. Okay? Granted, I'm somebody nobody has ever been, but at the same time. So this is my idea. At some point, I asked myself, how do I value the intelligence that is valuing the moment? I realized at some point in this life that all the things that I was externally seeking were internal conditions of mind. It's like a person is wondering, what do I want from this life? And realizing it's coming down to the idea that they're accepting themselves as. So prior to the acceptance of being a thought, one is the awareness to all the thoughts they can be. This suggests that humanization is not a complete system to give a solution to a transcendental problem. So what it means is that we are multidimensional beings awakening from a singular existence and dualistic experience. Just like evolutionarily speaking, the creature was like, I don't like the smell of dirt, and it stood up. Similarly, excuse me. Similarly, human psychology is lifting beyond the veils of the singular existence and dualistic experience. So we should not fear. It's like some people were like, yo, Mr. Within, is the world becoming a weirder place? I'll be like, sorry to give you this news, but the world was a weird place. The normal was fiction. So we have to start, like, this is really what happens when all those people talking about an awakening. Let me tell you what the awakening is. The awakening is realizing language is man-made, and the species is inside a cocoon of storytelling, and the butterfly that's to emerge from this language worshipping era of human civilization is the advanced humanity. People are like, Mr. Within, do you like butterflies? And I'll be like, to me, butterflies are the most divine insect. If the insect kingdom could choose an ambassador to go speak to human beings, it would be a butterfly. The butterfly is fascinating. Why? Because it's one of those creatures that completely transforms. And so it technically, to an outsider, the caterpillar is living another life. The caterpillar is destined for another life, right? So imagine the karma of a caterpillar, and then the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, and people were like, yo, what do we do with the caterpillar's karma? So I think this is the nature of reality, especially for brains, and I think the reason, the planet has an electromagnetic field, and so do we, is because we're going to realize this oneness of being is within everything. So anyways, inner realm management. Okay, how do I manage my mind? I'll give you an example before I tell you mine. There was a person called Napoleon. And Napoleon, like, regardless of who he was a person who had a fascinating mind. Why? Not only because he could sleep, literally like how we put our phones on airplane mode, like Napoleon could sleep any moment at any time and exactly wake up at any time he wanted, right? So that's something about Napoleon's mind. The second thing was Napoleon, the way he remembered everything from war to his personal life and everything, was that he had in his mind created this giant drawer, this giant cabinet with different drawers, like this giant office table. And he would, in some sense, just at any time could remember anything by pulling up the specific drawer in his mind. This was all in his mind, okay? So he had that kind of relationship. So you can have an image-oriented relationship with your mind, and you can play around and cultivate, let's say, train your mind with that image, right? Like, who knows? You could be somebody who, like, for you, spirituality is to, let's say, be pious and kind of like, you know, restricted by like religion. For example, you could be a religious monotheist and pious, and that could be like your, because really what spiritual experiences are karma. They're karma, but you're noticing more of from it. So what I'm saying is, it's based on the archetype you hold right now. Like, let's say there was somebody, if let's like, let's say somebody was a nudist, okay, and somebody came up to the nudist, the philosopher, and the philosopher said, "Man, hey man, sure, you are nude, but your mind is not nude." And the person was like, "What do you mean? I don't have any clothes on. What do you mean my mind is not nude?" And imagine the philosopher says, what is clothing for the mind is the language of belief that we clothe the moment in. Dear viewers, when you realize when I say you advance beyond the language threshold, you're going to at some point realize, just like how, imagine I created a machine that looked exactly like a human being, and that machine was working based on code. Every human being I see, their body language, their eyes, their attention are showing to me what code they're reacting to. You know? It's like when I was younger, I would just see people. Now when I look at people, I don't just see people. I see what sort of inner event are they reacting, they are responding to, and what their behavior is, right? There was a time in my youth when I thought anger equated strength, and that was so stupid. Later on, I realized angry people are the weakest people. You know, Isaac Asimov has this quote where he says violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. What does that mean? That means the evolutionary update of the human intelligence. It's like we're such intelligent beings that if we have to violently solve a problem, that means we were so stupid we couldn't solve it peacefully. That means only a smart person can peacefully solve a situation. Right? Why? Because it's like we used to be animals for millions of years. For the longest time, we used to be a creature that would just unconsciously, reactively bite, right? And now we have become a creature that consciously responds and articulates subjectively, right? So there's a privilege to being a mind, right? So the first thing, whoever you are, if you're a spiritual person who you think the mind is not important, that means you're acting like God. Let me tell you why. Because the idea should be like this. Like, this is why I never understood like the religious mentality of who is right and who is wrong. It's like religious people are saying God is the ultimate. God knows what's in every person's heart and mind and soul, right? And at the same time, religious people are like, no, I don't like this person because he didn't act like me. Do you know what I'm saying? It's as if sometimes religious people behave like they are the least religious people, right? And violence is religiously, I could say, it's like God's creation breaking God's creation. Do you know? That means I don't understand how religiously it ever made sense for God's creation to break God's creation. So theologians have to gather around and explain to like the world, right? How it makes sense that if God created everything, if God is moving everything, like WTF is man doing, you know, doing judging for God, right? You know, for me, Some people say, like, my background is from Iran, and Iran is a country that used to have a monarchy, had a king, and then a theocracy, a religious political system exchanged a royal one, right? And I'll say something honest. You know what it was? I thought about how could it be that a nation could lose its king so easily? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought to myself, how could it be that a lineage of kings could stop so easily? Then I realized that the value of religion was saying the only king is God. Do you see? So for me, the Islamic revolution in, 1979 in Iran was in some sense a spiritual, emotional one, an emotional reasoned one than rather a reasonable one. Do you know what I'm saying? That means people wanted to feel something they hadn't before, and religion was in some sense like only God knows, right? You see what it is? It's like, from a Freudian perspective, Freud would say God is dad, and he was saying that this evolutionary animal has this urge to, in some sense, want to relax under the wing of authority. Okay? But when it comes to religion, the idea is to surrender your individualism to the realization that everything is a collective movement. So for me, religions are actually ideological systems, are one of the earliest ideological systems that are pioneering collective mind movement. You know, I have been very privileged and blessed to have visited various temples, churches, mosques, you know, museums, like various places I've been. And you know how it has felt? It has felt to me that the world is an incredible place, and the only thing that's causing us turbulence is man has to become responsible in naturalizing the unnatural before the unnaturalization of the natural becomes inevitable. So the challenge of the human species is to build a civilization that does not forget the beauty and value of living as a biological human being. Something I am warning the future generations about, and my laptop has how much battery? 7% battery, oh my god. It's the speed of your mind, it's the direction of your mind. Anybody who wants to manage anything, you're managing a journey, you're managing an outcome. Anybody who wants to know what leadership is like, leadership is this. Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching says it. Once the leader's task is done, the people will say it. We say we did it ourselves. The purpose of the leader is to make sure that everybody is growing as much as they can during the journey. You see? For me, one day, I don't know, I hope before I exit this world, a team finds me. You know, I think I would love to run a team that's working on a global project. That's one of those things that I feel like a cat in a box and waiting for, like, you know, that opportunity to, like, you know, grab me out of that box, you know. But what it is that it's vision. This is the secret of life. If somebody says what is more important than money, I will say attention. Because money is where people's attention is. This is the challenge. If I wanted to just think about money, then this would be a completely different YouTube channel. But I'm just like, nah, you know, I'm alive once. The quality of the experience is more important than just the desire of the future, you know. What I've realized is that we are 8 billion travelers, and we are journeying through the space-time continuum, And when it comes to how do we manage our mind, the idea is that every individual should start paying attention to what sort of memories they're leaving behind for their future self. So the quality of your present suggests the quality of what type of memories your future self has. I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I was looking down on myself. Because I was looking down on myself, my future had to deal with a shitload of memories where I was just upset at myself. Do you know what I'm saying? So one thing one can say is that if we can somehow understand that greatness requires to be present for the idea to even be real, right? So my strategy is that my greatness is the result of the greatness of the world. Do you know? Somebody once said it, I think it was on Shark Tank, one of the sharks, I think it was Damon. He said something that was very fascinating. I'd never expected to hear it from, like, one of those things you don't expect to hear from a capitalist. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But what he said was that I changed my life when I realized I can change my thoughts. Instead of having low value thoughts, I can have high value thoughts. And those people who listen to this Mr. Within podcast, the advanced civilization is the highest value thought. The advanced humanity is the highest value state. What I'm saying is that it is now time for the greatest potential of the human species, not the greatest potential, but the greatest and most talented human beings to assemble and to contribute and help, Mr. Within build civilization 2.0. And I shouldn't say Mr. Within. Mr. Within is just an archetype. It's like we all want to see, like just like parents want to see their child grow up, all human beings that have ever lived want to see how great the civilization of ours is. What is the greatest common denominator of all civilizations is the greatness of their future. Right now, why is there war on the planet? Because people are valuing the present based on the past. That's the only reason there's war. Right? Rather than nations being like, okay, let's not value each other's worth based on what we don't have, based on scarcity. Let's not have the global United Nations have low value thoughts. Let's have the United Nations project high value thoughts. So what's an example of a high value thought? An example of a high value thought is, first of all, I shouldn't even say thought. My view is not like there's thoughts, okay? Anybody who thinks they're a thought, I'll like, help you relax. If you're a thought, then is a thought thinking another thought? It's an impossibility. It's a paradox. We are not thoughts. We are a life force. We're a force, a viewing force. And to be honest, it's unknown. Guys, my laptop has 3%. It's going to suddenly end. But I'm going to just keep going until it ends automatically. What I'm going to say about inner realm management is that nobody wants to manage something they're not fascinated about. The secret to talent, to skill, to unlocking the secret abilities that your DNA gives you a privilege, because you get a unique sight because of your DNA. So this is the idea. You have to pause life like a video game for like 10 to 20 minutes. You got to get a bunch of get like 3 pieces of printer paper or something. You got to get printer paper, and you got to get a pen. And you gotta sit on the ground or sit on the table. Sit not on the table, sit at the table. But I would say sit on the ground. Just keep it humble. I'm like somebody who's meditated on the kitchen floor, So you sit down with 3 pieces of paper, with a bunch of pieces of paper, and you write down, or I don't know, you sit at a table, or you get a book or something. I don't know. Figure it out, but just... You sit down, you don't touch the piece of paper and the pen, you just put that stuff on the ground as if it's just an object that's there. and you stop and you pause the story of your life, and you're like, okay, let me just pause whatever I think I have to be, or I am, or what I was and will be, and all of this. You pause that story and you look around. That's it. You for a second pause what you are, all the future, the past, the present, and you just watch what you are in the moment. And then you realize how simply life is being before we have to act upon the enforced subjective projection of it. Right? So once you are content with simple levels of life, you can handle any complexity. If somebody brought an army of, somebody type Jedi in the chat section hilariously. If somebody brought an army of Jedi and told me, Mr. Within, train these noobs. You know? Do you know? I would look at that army of, like, if somebody told me, like, okay, you know, how would you advance 8 billion human beings? If that was a problem to solve. Imagine a bunch of celestial beings. Oh my god, 2% battery, I gotta make this quick. Okay, so imagine a bunch of celestial beings want to solve this problem. This is my strategy. Physically, we're different. We have to accept that. But when it comes to mind, our differences are just direction of mind. So it's about, like, literally what a civilization is the activity. It's like the live streamed activity of 8 billion individual human beings. Our behavior is becoming our collective image. Okay? So my strategy would be, I would ask every individual, how far do you see the moment? Are you caring for life only for 100 years? Are you caring for life for 1,000 years? Are you caring for life as long as it takes for the human species to journey? With what sort of idea are you aligning your attention? Do you know? And honestly, guys, this is something hilarious, but I've thought about this, okay, just to keep it playful. If somebody was like, Mr. Within, what kind of Jedi would you be? I think I would be the silliest Jedi, but one of the most powerful Jedis. And let me explain what kind of Jedi I would be. I would be that Jedi with a giant bag of lightsabers on its back. And everybody would be like, what's wrong with this Jedi? You know, why is he carrying a giant bag of lightsabers? Right? And imagine last minute everybody had fallen and I was the last Jedi left. I'd just throw that bag of Jedi lightsabers in the air and I'd use the Force to, like, move all of them at the same time at the enemy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need hands to use a lightsaber if you can use the Force, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, literally both, like, the Jedis, like a more advanced Jedi, like let's say, like, I don't know, an evil Jedi, like a Sith was fighting a Jedi, like a really advanced version would be like both of them sitting down on, like, comfortable couches and their lightsabers just next level fighting in the air as they're talking. Do you know what I'm saying? But anyways. I'm pretty sure there's, you know, scholars of Star Wars out there who, you know, are better to consult, you know, when it comes to matters of the Force, you know. You know what it is.